Before I proceed any further, I'd like to clarify one very important thing. I do not work for SIMGOT and I am not getting paid to say anything in this video that you'll be watching. And it is important for me to clarify that upfront. You want to know why? Because after this video, if you are rushing to buy this SIMGOT ET142 because of what I said, then I'm not going to earn anything, because this thing is super amazing. Perhaps, probably the very best money can buy IEM this year 2025. So let's just get a bit of background of this ET142. This is in fact not a new IEM, because it already existed sometime in 2024 last year. And in fact, the one that I'm using right now is a second edition. Yes, I received the first edition when it was available sometime last year. And SIMGOT actually asked me to try it out, to test it out first as a prototype. And my feedback was, no, you can't sell this IEM. It doesn't sound good at all. In fact, it sounded like metallic, dry, and very clinical, very detailed, but not musical at all. SIMGOT also sent quite a number of samples to test out to other reviewers. And based on the feedback also from them, SIMGOT has decided to put this ET142 on hold. So they are very serious about tuning and making it sound right for this ET142. And as a result of that, you're gonna have something which is very well tuned, very well designed in every way possible when it comes to the implementation of the piezoelectric driver and also magnetic planar driver. And I must say that I am super impressed with the commitment and with the kind of focus which SIMGOT has put into this ET142 to a point that it is becoming my favorite now. Okay, let's talk about the build, the comfort, the wear factor and the seal of this ET142. It is entirely made of metal, just like many other premium model from SIMGOT, and I would say that it is exceedingly comfortable. I have been wearing this ET142 since like 10 AM this morning, and now it's already like 5 PM, so you get an idea. I am not feeling any kind of discomfort, any kind of aggressiveness or anything like that. But I would say that when it comes to, let's say, seal factor, it is just fairly okay, to be expected of metal constructed IEM. So it doesn't seal that really well as compared to, let's say, for example, like this plastic type of IEM. And you also notice this excellent cable here. This thing is heavy as well. It is modular, it is heavy, but if you can get over the weight factor, you don't mind heavy cable and heavy IEM, then I would just simply say that it is definitely excellent. So, why is this SIMGOT ET142 potentially the very best money can buy this year 2025? There are several things I would like to share with you, my perspective, why I think it is so. And I'll try to be as concise as possible. First and foremost, let's just have a look at the tuning option. This ET142 comes with 4 tuning nozzle, 4 different types. And it also comes with 3 different type of ear tips. All of which, depending on the combination that you choose, will determine the sound. It can be bright, it can be organic, it can be metallic, it can be highly technical, analytical, you name it, it can be anything. So in my case, I have spent countless hours trying different kind of combination. I will not bore you with the details, but suffice to say that the one that I ended up will be the short steel nozzle and this equally shallow small bore nozzle here, which is a combination which I think the very best for my taste and for my listening preference. And then this being a magnetic planar and on top of it piezoelectric, surprisingly, without a doubt, the easiest magnetic planar based IEM which I have the opportunity to try so far. This thing was super efficient that I was able to use my Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV here, connected directly like this from the 3.5mm single-ended, and I would even say that I am getting 80% perhaps of what this ET142 is capable of delivering. But of course, being a magnetic planar, it does scale amazingly well as you bump up the quality of the source, especially if you have power like this iBasso DX340 and this from the 4.4mm balance high gain, then you're gonna get 100%. And of course, at the very minimum, I would say that at the very least, you should use this ET142 with something like an ultra compact dongle like Venture Electronic Devastator 4.4mm balance, or I would highly recommend Onyx Alpha or iBasso DC07 Pro, all of which will deliver maximum potential for this ET142. So why is it the very best money can buy for this year 2025 for magnetic planar, this ET142? Why I am saying it so? It is because of the sound and the performance itself. This thing is very well tuned. Remember what I mentioned earlier? SIMGOT spent quite a lot of time doing work on this repeatedly, so many times, so many revision. This is the second unit that they sent to me, which is supposed to be the final unit, and even that they sent me several tuning options, which I think at the end of the day resulted in something which is exceedingly amazing with the sound itself. First and foremost is the lower frequency performance. The kind of lower frequency performance which I would normally get from very high-end IEM. IEM which costs $1,000 and above. Something like FA19, FIO FA19, or even Acoustune HS2000 MX Mark III. So we are talking about three-dimensional kind of sound coming from the lower frequency, with the mid bass, with the sub bass very well balanced. The kind of mid bass which is very beautiful. It suits any type of music, anything from classical, rock, metal, electronic, you name it, everything just sounded so addictive. And the lower frequency of the sub bass itself with the kind of decay which extend really deep, which is just simply mind-blowing. And in order to get that, of course, you need to scale up the power itself. It needs at least in excess of 500 milliwatt of power from 4 VRMS source from the 4.4mm balance, because if you drive this using a non-powerful source, you're still gonna get half of that performance. But then again, the true potential is when you scale up the power. And then the mid-range itself, this is also so exceedingly beautiful. Despite generally being tuned as a V sound curve, it does sound a bit frontal with the mid-range, especially when I listen to jazz, technical jazz, or even certain type of vocal music with female and male vocal. Everything sounded rich. Everything sounded so organic and natural. But it does appear kind of a bit colored. I would not consider that as being transparent with the mid-range itself, especially the instrument. But you know what? That doesn't bother me. Transparency is not the kind of thing which I'm looking here. It is about immersion into the mid-range itself. Just simply lovely. And the upper frequency with the kind of tuning nozzle which I have chosen earlier, like I mentioned earlier, the short tuning nozzle, I get a lot of detail, macro and micro detail in the upper frequency. But SIMGOT has spent so much time tuning it in such a way that it is never offensive. It extends really deep. But perhaps when compared with some of the higher end, I do admit that it does extend not as far as those high-end IEM. In return, what I get is something which is a bit more dampened, something which is a bit more forgiving, something which is not fatiguing, something which is not bright, something which will not hurt your ear for extended listening period. While everything does appear to be kind of like almost perfect for this ET142, I wish that something could have been done better with the tuning itself. So I am just nitpicking here when it comes to technicality. Technically, resolution is amazing. Imaging is amazing, layering, separation, everything amazing. But the sound stage, but perhaps because of the nozzle which I have chosen, also with the tips which I have chosen, I am not getting the kind of wide open sound stage which I would normally associate with something like Hydis MP145 or even Lexure S12 2024 or even Final Audio A5000. The sound stage is more of being circular, slightly narrower, but frontal. And on top of it, the good thing is that it is holographic by being circular. Now, on to the burning question. How does this ET142 compares against some of the very best performer when it comes to magnetic planar in the market now in 2025? It is not a secret that many of you would have already known that my topmost rated IEM for magnetic planar is Luxury S12 2024 and also HiDis MP145. And not forgetting my personal favorite SIMGOT Nightingale. I'm just gonna simply say this, after careful consideration, everything that I have experienced with this ET142, it is without a doubt that this thing will rate slightly higher than Luxury S12 2024 because I do feel that it performs better when it comes to lower frequency and also the mid-range, and it does appear richer and denser sounding than those Luxury S12 2024. And the same can be said for HiDis MP145, which I think sounded a bit flatter if I were to compare it with this. And of course, this is definitely better than Timeless 2, which I have reviewed very recently. About the only thing which I think this ET142 does not perform as well as the other competition is just the sound stage, which I mentioned earlier, kind of a bit circular, kind of a bit narrow, because Luxury S12 2024 and also HiDis MP145 or even Timeless 2 does appear sounding a bit wider and more open sounding and more airy with the presentation itself. And last but not least, how about comparison with SIMGOT Nightingale? And I will openly admit, yet again, I must say that I will still stick to SIMGOT Nightingale as my #1 personal favorite. A very personal subjective thing. But when it comes to performance rating, this is definitely higher than SIMGOT Nightingale. But rating is not everything. It is all about preference. So definitely, I would say that when it comes to objectively being better, this is better than most other magnetic planar in the market now. If you like what you're hearing, what you're seeing, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. And also please take a moment to click like here. It will really help me out. It is free, by the way. And also please follow me on Instagram, which I have set up very recently. My Instagram will be a platform for me to provide quick updates on the things that I do beyond this video. And again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.